All right, let's talk about building a solid foundation for your data. I mean, how do massive companies take this absolute tangled mess of information they have on their customers and turn it into something they can actually trust? Well, we're going to see how they turn that data chaos into crystal clarity. And you know what? It all starts with a problem I bet you've seen before. So, you know the drill, right? You get a letter in the mail addressed to J. Smith, but then you get an email from the very same company and it's for John Smith. It just feels like a simple, sloppy mistake. But what if I told you it wasn't a mistake at all? But here's the thing. That's not some random error. It's actually a direct result of how a company's data architecture is designed, or more often, how it's not designed. It's a choice. So today, we're going to pull back the curtain and look at the exact digital blueprint that stops this kind of chaos before it even starts. Okay, so first things first, when you're building anything that's meant to last, you have to get organized. You can't just take all your data, your customers, your products, your suppliers, and just dump it all into one giant, messy digital pile. Nope. You need a high-level structure. You need a way to create some order from all that noise. And in the world of Informatica MDM, this top-level organization has a name. It's called a subject area. Yeah, I know, it sounds a little technical, but trust me, the idea behind it is incredibly simple. Here's the best way to think about this whole process. Just picture a subject area as one single drawer in a massive digital filing cabinet. That's all it is. It's just a dedicated spot for one specific type of information. So what goes in these drawers? Well, exactly what you'd think. You set up one drawer just for all your customer data. You have another one dedicated to all your product information, one for suppliers, another for locations. And by doing this, you're not just getting organized, you're creating really clear boundaries. Now, the rules for customers don't get all tangled up with the rules for products. It's the first and, honestly, the most critical step to creating a system that actually makes sense. All right, so we've got our digital filing cabinet all sorted out into neat drawers. Awesome. But what do we actually put inside those drawers? Now we're going to zoom in from the big category down to the actual core files themselves. Inside every subject area, we have something called a base object. So if the subject area is the drawer, the base object is like the official master template for every single file that's ever going to go inside that drawer. It basically defines the perfect structure for what a single golden record is supposed to look like. And this hierarchy is super important to get right. It's a really simple but totally crucial parent-child relationship. First, you create the drawer, that's the customer subject area. Then, and only then, do you design the master file template, the customer base object that's going to live inside it. And man, this is where the real magic happens. The base object is where you make all the heavy-duty design decisions. This is where you define the attributes, asking, what information are we going to store? You define the business keys, asking, how are we going to spot the duplicates? And you define the survivorship rules, which answer the question, if two systems give us different info, who wins? It all gets decided right here, in the blueprint of the file itself. Let's get even more granular. We've gone from the cabinet, to the drawer, to the file template. Now let's look at the actual lines on the page, the individual attributes that make up the record. This right here, this is the nitty-gritty of the blueprint. For our customer base object, we have to define every single piece of data. We don't just say first name. We have to specify that it's text or varchar. We don't just say date of birth, we define it as a specific date type. Why all the fuss? Because as you're about to see, every single one of these little details has massive consequences down the line. And seriously, I cannot stress this enough. Let's say you get a little lazy and you define the date of birth as just a plain old text field. Well, your system has no idea how to reliably compare January 1st, 1990 to 01/01/1990. And just like that, poof, your entire matching process just falls apart. Choosing the right data type isn't just a good idea. It's absolutely fundamental. Okay, time to introduce the hero of this entire story, the business key. If you want to get rid of duplicates for good, this is the one concept you absolutely have to understand. Its only job is to give every single record from every single system its own unique fingerprint. Now here's the secret sauce. You almost never use just one field for this. No way. You use a composite key. You mash them together. You take the record's ID from the source system and you combine it with the name of the system it came from, like CRM or ERP. That combination, CRM plus C123, that's your golden ticket. It is guaranteed to be unique across your entire company. Okay, the blueprint is done. We've got our drawers, our templates, our rules, the whole shebang. Now for the fun part. Let's put this thing to the test and watch as a real piece of data goes on the journey from a messy source file to a clean, trusted, golden record. So here's our real-world problem. We've got a customer, Ravi Kumar, who exists in two different systems. Our CRM has his full name, but the ERP system just has his initial. It's the same person, but the data is different. This is exactly the kind of chaos our blueprint is designed to fix. So how does our awesome blueprint handle this? First, both records land in a staging area. Immediately, our business keys go to work, and the system knows they came from two different places. Then, bam, the match rules kick in. The system sees the email address is identical and figures out, hey, this is a match. And finally, our survivorship rules play referee and decide which data gets to win. Maybe we have a rule that says the CRM name is always better, so Ravi Kumar wins out over our And what do you get at the end of all that? Boom. One single, trusted, golden record. The chaos is gone. The system now knows, without a doubt, that these two source records are the same person, and it automatically built the best possible version of that person's data. That's the payoff. That's why we did all that careful design work up front. So that's the happy path. But just like building a house, if the blueprint has even a tiny mistake in it, the whole thing can come crashing down. So let's take a look at what can go wrong. The absolute #1 killer of MDM projects? A bad business key design. If your key isn't truly unique, the system can't spot the matches correctly. So instead of merging records, it starts creating more duplicates. You end up with a data explosion where the problem actually gets 100 times worse. And the other big one, it goes right back to that date of birth example. Choosing the wrong data types can cause your data loads to just fail completely. But even worse, and this is the really scary part, is when it doesn't fail. It just silently starts corrupting your matching process in the background, making you think your data is clean when it's absolutely not. Okay, so how do we make sure this disaster never happens to you? Here are the golden rules. First, lock down your data model before anyone writes a single line of code. Keep your base objects lean and mean, focused on one thing. Always, always, always use composite business keys. And for goodness sake, document everything. A brilliant blueprint is totally useless if nobody can read it. At the end of the day, creating this blueprint is about so much more than just cleaning up the data you have right now. It's about building a foundation that can actually adapt and grow with your business. So the final question you have to ask yourself isn't just, does my design work today? It's, is what I'm building truly built to last?